What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined by Ryan McCluskey, and we are here with the College Football Podcast. What becomes of the broken Hart-Manned? This is the first of a double-header tonight from Roar of the Lions UK. We'll be here later with our New England Patriots preview as well. So if you're tuning in to see some Lions talk, then stick around with us, see some college stuff first, and then we'll get into the Lions stuff a little bit later on. Thank you for everyone who is joining us. I know Ashley's in the chat already. I've already got him with the title of this one. I'm very delighted with that. Micro Mike is in the building on YouTube. He says yo to you, sir. Thank you for joining. Seen Derek Barrick in the Twitch chat. Dan Pask is in there as well. He's just resubscribed at tier 1, been subscribed to us for 7 months. Dan, thank you as always. He says, cheers guys, thanks for all you do. Go Lions. Hey, thank you Dan as well for coming in and joining and giving us your support as well. It means the world to us. Right, so Ryan, the college football season, we're entering sort of a twilight zone at the minute this time, aren't they? The Kansas Jayhawks have a college game day visit coming up this week. The Duke Blue Devils are just beating up on Fools week by week. And UCLA are the only 5-0 ranked team in the country. It's shaping up to be a very interesting season in college world.
Yep, a lot of the big boys are disappointing. It seems like it's going to be a season of the underdogs. A lot of these small teams already nearing bowl eligibility. It's fantastic to see. And yeah, a lot of it's wide open. Pac-12 is wide open, like I say. Oregon, but you've got Utah, got Washington, and UCLA, all like 4 or 5 wins. So it's going to go down to the wire this year.
Absolutely. I just can't make heads nor tails of it at the minute. Like you say, there's some teams already coming up on bowl eligibility. It's crazy. We're approaching the halfway point of the season already. It does not seem like a minute since this season started, but yeah. Absolutely crazy stuff. So today we are going to be taking a review of week 5 of the college football season. We are also going to preview week 6 as well, to do with our pick watch fixtures, and Ryan is going to give us the latest information that's going on in the FCS at the moment. That's the division below the FBS, so where you've got your North Dakota States, all that down there. Ryan is an avid watcher, so he's going to let us know what's going on there. But first, just got to get the housekeeping out of the way, and I'm going to do it quick because we have another show coming up later. So the Roar of the Lions UK Discord, if you want in on that, just let us know. We'll sling you a link over. It's really, really good fun. The main podcast coming after the show, so don't need to hype that. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all our channels. Our YouTube, we are about 16 subscriptions shy of 600. So if we could do that during our double episode this evening, that would be cool. As cool as school, too cool for school, as they say. So yeah, if you can, that would be great. And obviously don't forget on Twitch and all those as well. And also Lions Nation Unite, part of that Herman Moore's app. Content created by Detroit Lions fans for Detroit Lions fans. You will find many, many great podcasts on there, such as Micro Mike, who's hanging around in the YouTube chat at the minute. He is the greatest at doing this, so go check him out. His shows are must see. Right, let's dive into the news. Bit of news going on this week, right? So we did this last year, Ryan. We had a look at the undefeateds as the numbers dwindle down over the course of the season. We are only through 5 weeks, don't forget, of this season. There are 131 teams in the FBS. Well, after 5 weeks, only 16 undefeated teams remain. Yes, everybody is beating everybody this year. Those teams, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, the Ole Miss Rebels, Tennessee Volunteers, Michigan Wolverines, Kansas Jayhawks, the UCLA Bruins, the Clemson Tigers, Georgia, the Bulldogs. You've got James Madison, Penn State, the Nittany Lions, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, Syracuse, TCU, and USC. Ryan, just that little list of 16 there. Who are you surprised that's still in there at this moment in time?
TCU I'm surprised by, because they usually start fairly slowly in the seasons. JMU, obviously, first step up to the FBS, which is pretty remarkable to be unbeaten at this point, which is great. Coastal Carolina usually start off well but tail off. But yeah, a few of these teams meet, so a lot of these teams are going to fall already this week. So we're going to have maybe only a few left next week. I think at least this could at least half.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed last year like the undefeated teams diminished quickly, but it seems like this year it's going even quicker. It's amazing. But no, fair play to them all. And I said I'd do this for Hatter's House if he's listening either now or later on. But big shout out to UCLA, the Bruins, the only 5-0 team in the country currently. So well done to them. They put away the Michael Penix Express in Washington. But we'll talk about this. Week 5 weekend very soon. So the other news I've got here, a couple more head coaches have departed. Wisconsin, they have fired their head coach Paul Christ after getting blown out by Illinois at the weekend. Fun fact about this one, the Illinois head coach who beat them this weekend, Brett Bielema, he is second all-time in wins as head coach of Wisconsin. He has 68 wins. Christ finishes as the number 3 all-time winningest head coach at Wisconsin with 67. So Brett Bielema has defended his title as the second most winningest coach ever by getting his successor fired one game before he breaks his record. So Christ finishes 67-26 on the season. He was 43-18 in the Big Ten. Pretty decent record considering some of these guys who are in jobs. He's won 3 Big Ten West titles. The last one was in 2019. He has never finished lower than 3rd in the conference, and he has 6 bowl wins in 7 years. However, a 2-3 start this season and an 0-2 start in the conference has sealed his fate. Wisconsin, who've moved on. And Ryan, this seems to be a case of the old adage, what can you do for me today, not what have you done for me in the past.
Yep, very successful. He's been in charge of some great teams. He's done some really good things, but that's not enough. Like I say, you can't just keep living off your past moral victories and win-loss record. They've started the season poorly in a Big Ten that for me is very weak and out there to be won. They have not made the most of the roster. A lot of this done out, like say, his quarterback has also let him down as well, because I don't trust Graham Mertz whatsoever. I don't rate him in the slightest. But after last season, where they should have won their half of the division easily. How, like say, they hung on with Minnesota and Iowa and didn't pull away, like it was a bad end. And now they're pretty much almost out of contention as well this season. They're really struggling. Braylon Allen just got absolutely shut down over the weekend. Don't know if he's injured, but it was probably the worst performance he's ever had. He had like 3 carries for like 2 yards, so there's something not right there. A stellar defense over a few years has started to become leaky, and an offense that has produced some greats is now sluggish. So yeah, they're a program that's now in flux. It's easily the most attractive job on the market, though. They will get so many people that want to be there because it's a big program and it's still got a lot of talent. So they need to probably wait to the end of the season. I don't think they should rush into any higher, but they won't have any problem getting who they want.
No, like I said, I think he's leaving behind a program that's not in the worst of situations. It's kind of like the Lions were when Caldwell left. They're doing all right every year, but they just need to take that next step. Obviously, they've never won a Big Ten championship under him, so I suppose that is the end game with it. But there are a lot of coaches in college football that should be worried now if guys like this are getting fired with records like some coaches will kill for a record like that. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. But yep, Wisconsin have fired their head coach. Just a shout out to more people joining us. Brent DeWitt is on YouTube. Says go Lions, go Blue. Love the college input you guys put out, lovely. Thank you for that, really appreciate that. Chrome's in, he says what up, and he says hello to Hank as well. I'm sure Hank will bark hello back at some stage. And on Twitch, KateMan1218 is in there. He goes, how's it going, friends? Going well. Hope everything is going well with you as well. That's not the only head coach who's lost his job this week, and probably in less surprising news, the Colorado Buffaloes, they have dispensed with their head coach, Carl Durrell. They're not having a good season. They are 0-5. Their start to the season is historically bad. So not since 1957 has a Power 5 team opened the season with 4 consecutive losses by at least 25 points, which is what they did. And although they didn't lose this weekend by 25 points. They lost to Arizona by 23 points. And Darrell was fired the next day. He's been in charge since 2020. He finishes with a record of 8-15. They're 0-5 on the season. So he was 8-10 before this season. But this is just a case of, I think Colorado realized they made a mistake. This season, like I say, you're not seeing a start like this since 1957 from a power team. This is probably justified and smart by Colorado to not hang on.
Yeah, they cut ties early. They didn't want to drag this out. It's crazy because I remember a Colorado team in like 2013, 14, 15 that they once challenged for a playoff spot. They once had a fairy tale season like 10 years ago, and they have basically fallen off a cliff and just fallen out of relevancy in the Pac-12. And if you're struggling in the Pac-12, you're in bad nick. Like I say, Steven Montez, like I say, their former quarterback, was pretty good. He carried a pretty good offense, had Chenault, but yeah, last 2 years they've really struggled for talent. Their best players have walked away or entered the portal, and it's a historically bad start to the season. And the skid probably won't get any better either. Like I say, we're now in full Pac-12 mode for the next 4 games. I don't know if they're going to win a game this season without looking at their schedule, but yeah, they're in free fall, and that's on the other scale of probably, I'd say, a not attractive job. Like I say, recruiting is hard. They're not littered with talent, and morale is probably at an all-time low. And I imagine attendances will soon be affected. So anyone takes on the Buffaloes, I applaud you because it's very brave. But beam of light is, I'm pretty sure in the next 2 weeks you're playing Arizona State, so you may be able to get your first win.
Oh, I wasn't going to mention them for you this week, but yeah, they're having a bit of a rotten season, aren't they? It's not good there for the Sun Devils. So yeah, that's 2 head coaches who have gone this week. The only other bit of news, week 6 actually did start yesterday. There was a very early start to this week. UCF, the University of Central Florida, blew out SMU 41-19 to start off this week. I guess it's just a point of Tanner Mordecai and that SMU team you're talking about fall off cliffs, man. Their cliff they've fallen off is huge.
Well, they've been found out, haven't they? Like you say, he threw for 295 yards, no interceptions. 1 interception, no touchdowns. Defense got absolutely destroyed by a quarterback that's about 6 feet tall and is a glorified running back. John Rice Plumlee absolutely shredded them, and he's not a very good quarterback. And I will just put my hands up and say that, like you say, he is a running back. That's how he's used at Ole Miss, and he's not the best thrower. So yeah, they had a guy that went for like 120 yards and a touchdown, like his best ever game. So yeah, I reckon Mordecai is probably done now. Like you say, there'll be no more hype about him. No. The air raid offense has been exposed, and the defense is dreadful. It's been terrible for 2 years now. How many times have been dragged into these 30, 40 point games? So yeah, that head coach, I'd say, probably is in a bit of trouble too, because I read as well the other day that 3 of their star young players are about to sit out the season and enter the portal, and this is going to lead to the face. So yeah, they're in trouble.
No, and the crazy part is he's not on his own. There's other teams we're going to talk about later who came into this season with such high expectations and have really, specifically their quarterbacks, been underwhelming. It's been an eye-opener for sure. Luke G is in the building. He says, we're near listening. Hope you're all right as ever. Luke, hope they're not working you too hard, because I know they have a tendency to do that. So, let's move this on. So, before we talk about the FBS this week, before we talk about week 5, we mentioned last week, Ryan said he was going to start taking a look at the FCS. That's the Football Championship subdivision, the level below the FBS there. There's a lot of talent hidden away down there, a lot of good teams hidden away this year. It seems like there's been more FCS over FBS upsets this year than there have been in a long time. So I'm going to pass it over to Ryan now. He's going to let us know the latest of what's going on in the world of the FCS.
Yep, so I'm trying to do FCS / Group 5 performance of the week, so not excluding the Power 5. So I've actually gone this week with a pair. James Madison, their linebackers Taurus Jones and Jalen Walker They combined for 15 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, 2 interceptions, 2 brass breakups, and a touchdown in their 5th win this season. So between them, they probably had the best pairing of anyone in the country, because that is pretty. They had, let's say, 3 turnovers and a touchdown between them. So they had one of the best days ever. So that was my performance of the week there. Now, the opening rankings for week 5, we've got a few familiar faces. So number 1, got North Dakota State. That speaks for itself. Number 2, got South Dakota State, so the Jackrabbits. 3, you've got the Montana Grizz. Number 4, you've got Montana State, and they're carrying off from their national championship defeat last season, where they made it all the way to final as the 8th seed. They've started the season really well. 5th, you've got Sacramento State. 6th, you've got Delaware. 7, Weber State. 8, we've got Deion Sanders Jackson State. Like I said, 4-0, like I said, they are flying and they are in the FCS rankings. 9, you've got the Holy Cross Crusaders. One of the smallest teams. They're in the Patriot League, which is a really small league, so they're doing really well. And at number 10, UIW got Incarnate Word. There's 3 5-0 teams in the nation. That is Montana, Delaware, and Holy Cross currently. Everyone else is 4-1 or 4-0. The biggest changes in the rankings this week from last week are Elon. They're now 14th in the nation. Last week they were 23rd. And Missouri State was 7th last week. Had a loss this week and fallen all the way to 20th. And the game of the week was a very interesting one. So the Montana Grizz, before this weekend, were 4-0. They'd scored 173 points and conceded only 37. They went to Idaho State, who were 0-4, winless, and only scraped away a 28-20 win. Their quarterback threw a touchdown and interception. They struggled for the entire game. They managed to just get over the line and preserve their 5-0 record, but that might be the closest they come to an upset all season, and very unfashionable. And that is why they were 3rd last week and stayed 3rd in the nation this week. So fair play to Idaho State. No wins on the season, almost took the biggest scalp, but that is probably the biggest game this week. So I'm going to carry on watching the rankings, see what they do, and try to highlight a game every single week.
There you go. Latest in the FCS there. So, like you say, there's some really good sides in there this year, and they're upsetting teams at a rate of knots in the FBS. So impressive to see, and we shall see how the season down there develops as well. For now, we shall move it on to the FBS again, and we shall talk about week 5 of this season. And not a lot of upsets this week outside of maybe some of the pick-what fixtures we had, but there's still a lot of storylines coming out of this one. Now, I know I usually start off with the team and the title. I usually do this one, which is obviously the Wake Forest-Florida State game. We're going to talk about that very shortly, but the first one I want to talk about, because we were talking about teams, right, who came into the season with good offenses, they got a good quarterback, everything in the world looks like it's going right for them, and then the season's just come along and they really, really have disappointed. And of course, talking here about the Houston Cougars, and I watched their game against the Tulane Green Wave. I think it was Thursday last week, one of the first games of the week. I think you were watching as well a bit of this one, Ryan. But Houston lost this. They were playing Tulane. It ended 27-24. It got to overtime. Houston were only able to kick a field goal out of this one, and Tulane marched all the way down the pitch and got themselves a touchdown and walked off the win with this one. But the amazing thing about this, it was at Houston's home, so Tulane were on the road. Tulane started this game with their second string quarterback because their first string had got some form of injury. They don't know what it was, or they didn't at the time. I don't know if they still do now. So they started with the second string quarterback. He got injured on the very first drive of this one. He'd gone 5 of 5 for 57 yards, then got knocked out injured. So they had to bring out their third string quarterback, Kai Horton, into this one. And he just had a game and a half. He went 11 of 21. He had 132 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just kind of sliced this Cougars defense to shreds. And on the opposite side of the ball, this is Clayton Tune. this high-powered Houston offense that would have won the ACC last year if it wasn't for Cincinnati and their playoff heroics. I think me and Ryan both called the division for them this year, or at least had them in the championship game, but they are 2-3 now. They've lost to the Jayhawks. They've lost to Tulane's third-string quarterback. Clayton Tune was 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was all right, but we're not seeing the offense that made them so dangerous last year. Right? This is another team who've fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like I said, Dana Holgerson, he's one of those disciples of Mike Leach. That strong, heavy passing offense. Not as much air raid, but Clayton Tune, especially last year, absolutely lighting stuff up. And it's not like he's lost his best weapon. He's still got Nathaniel Dell there. Like I said, they lost Marcus Jones, like I said, their return, a star corner, but he was a better returner than was a defender. So it's not like this team's lost too much production. But that's that's their second overtime loss of the season, I think. They just can't get it done. I think they've lost 2 in overtime.
I believe you're right. Yeah, Texas Tech.
Yeah. They just can't get it done inside real time. They keep getting dragged into this period, and their just stamina drops off. Like I said, they start games well, but then they fall off really quickly. And I was really high on Clayton Tune. Like I say, he's like one of those super seniors. He's been around a long time. So this year was his big year to try and make his impact for the draft. But it's really not going to plan. Houston now, like I say, we both penciled him in for the title game. Well, they can probably rub that out now. At 2-3, are they making a championship game? I don't think there's any chance they can, really. They've struggled really badly. And they've been really good in the last few years. I don't know if I'd go as far to say Dana Holgerson's job is, I don't know, is it under fire? Is he on a hot seat? But I think they've played well for the last few years. But yeah, this is going to be really disappointing for them. And they're a team I was really high on to possibly get 9-10 wins this year. But they're going to struggle. They're going to be lucky now to make a bowl game because they've dug themselves a massive hole.
Yeah, exactly. And when you can't, win at home against the third-string quarterback in Tulane, don't get me wrong, Tulane are all right, but they're not, they're not like standard bearers in the division. So that's a huge one for them. And I just remember watching this, I thought, Houston are going to win. They've just got to. There's no way that they're not going to eventually, but they managed to get it to overtime, and that was all she wrote. So Houston's problems continue this year. It's actually, interestingly, the third game they've gone into overtime this year in 5. They beat UTSA week 1 in overtime. So there's something when you're forced into 3 overtimes in 5 weeks. I bet that doesn't happen very often in college football, but I digress. We'll move it on. So we'll go down some of our pick watch results from the week here, and we'll always start with the team that opens up the title of the show. And finally, praise be, Ryan, we can talk some trash about Florida State, because me and you both backed them last week against Wake Forest. There's no way that Wake Forest defense is going to be able to stand up against Florida's run game and Jordan Travis, who seems to be doing a little bit better. Did they heck have a go at this Wake Forest defense? In the end, it ended up Wake Forest 31, Florida State 21, and this was, I believe it was at Florida State's home as well. This was a road game for Wake Forest. No, it wasn't actually. It was at Wake Forest. My bad. But still, Florida State looked really bad in this game. I mean, Jordan Travis looked fine. 23 of 35, 281 yards, 3 touchdowns. But the running game, Treshawn Ward was going at 7 yards a carry, but only had 13 carries on the night. No rushing touchdown. Johnny Wilson continuing his great start to the season, 85 yards and a touchdown. Micah Pittman had 2 touchdowns, but their defense, despite getting what I think they said was about 5 sacks in the evening, just got tore apart by Sam Hartman. He had 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. But more concerningly, I think, for Florida State is Wake Forest ran on them. Justice Ellison, 18 carries, 114 yards and a touchdown, 6.5 yards a carry. Christian Turner, 20 carries, 64 yards and a touchdown. Only 3.5, but when Wake Forest are running on you, you've got issues, because Wake Forest are a passing team. They're not a team that runs the ball on you very often. And Florida State, they kind of looked like last year, didn't they? In the case of you expect them to win, but they disappointed.
Yeah, if you're letting Wake Forest run on you, that's a bad sign. Wake Forest have not had a successful run game probably since the middle of last year before Christian Beale got hurt and then entered the portal. Like I say, his season ended and then he left and decided that that was kind of it. I think Justin Ellison, I'm pretty sure he might be a freshman or a sophomore. I think he's one of the new kids on the block. So it was good to see him have his first, what I think is best game. So, but when Wake Forest find complementary football and don't ask Sam Hart-Manned to throw the ball 45 times and for 400 yards, that is when they're actually at their best. Like I say, their defense is soft, but it actually did a good job of standing up this week. Like I say, we both backed Florida State because we thought Wake Forest defense couldn't hang, and it too often in times it let them get dragged into these battles. But they did really well. Like I say, they kept the run game in check, and despite the sacks and the pressure, Hart-Manned stood in there really well. Like you say, he did get eaten up quite a bit. They did have lots of negative plays, but for the first time this season, A.T. Perry finally woke up. I think he had 2 touchdowns and like 80 yards. This was his coming out game before the draft because he struggled in every other game this season that I've seen. So it was good that big man stood up. But yeah, I was disappointed. I actually had optimism in Florida State. I picked them, and I don't normally go against Wake Forest because I like them. But yeah, they let me down. But I wasn't that disappointed by the result because I still think that the Demon Deacons can challenge Clemson potentially for a title despite a loss.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a few of the little bits there, like Florida State's defense. It had a lot of success in this one. 11 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. You know, that's a lot of havoc they're causing in the background there, and you know, you're still not able to work off that. There were turnovers, there were a couple of fumbles in there as well. Florida State had an average starting field position that was nearly 10 yards better than Wake Forest as well. So they had the short fields. They weren't able to do anything with them. Wake Forest, they really excelled on the third down. That's where they got it. 55% third down success rate conversion. That's 85th percentile. That's really good for them. So while they sort of maybe struggled with the big booming passing game that you're used to, they converted when it mattered. And yeah, Florida State, it's back to the drawing board. Big matchup for them this weekend. If they want to prove this was a little bit of a bump in the road and nothing serious, then they'll go out and win this one. But another defeat this weekend, and serious questions will be getting asked of them and Mike Norvell once more. Let's move this on. So I mentioned there's only one 5-0 country, 5-0 team in the entire country. We're talking about the UCLA Bruins, and I'm really happy about this one because in our pick watch, I'm the only guy who picked UCLA for this. There was a clean sweep for Michael Penix and Washington, and they lost. UCLA won this one 40-32. Really good game. Managed to see some extended highlights of this one. Very invested in it. UCLA, we know what their weapons are. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the quarterback, he had an unusually good passing day for him. 24 of 33, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was torching a Washington defense which so far has been really good. Zach Charbonnet was Zach Charbonnet, the running back, 124 yards, averaging 5.5 yards per carry and a touchdown. DTR also got a rushing touchdown. He was also rushing at 5.5 yards per carry, so the passing game was really good. The running game was complimentary. Jake Bobo, the wide receiver, he had 142 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 6 receptions. Really good day for him. For Washington, maybe not necessarily the offense that did it this week, but Penix did start to show a little bit of his true colours here. So he went 33 of 48. They asked him to pass a lot. They only ran the ball about 22 times, and he passed it 48. He went for 345 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They threatened to come back in this. They won the last quarter 16 points to 0 because they were in a real hole, hence why Penix was throwing interceptions, but they weren't able to dig themselves out of it. Rome Odunze, 8 receptions, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, led the way for Washington, but you know, That defense that's been really good did not show up in this one, and unfortunately for them, the UCLA offense did. When it's on its day, it's a double-headed monster, and they actually look quite impressive this year. It's a big statement win for UCLA, who this was their biggest challenge of the season, and they rose up to it.
Yeah, they've actually got, like I said, this was an important game because of who they've got this weekend. This is now this is the stretch of the season where we see, can they win the Pac-12? They've answered the first test. Like I say, the first half they were fantastic. Like I say, they were basically out of sight. Like I said, Washington were going in that third quarter and they were panicking, and that's where Penix got loose. It got sloppy. The balls turned over. But yeah, it was an offensive showing that both sides put on a clinic at times. But that Washington defense that's usually fairly stingy, the floodgates open this week. Like I said, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I've never been keen on him because the arm's just never been there for me. But he found his arm this week. And like I said, Zach Charbonnet is proving himself to be one of the better backs in this class. And I think probably going to be an impact maker at the next level too when he goes pro after, like, he's having back-to-back stellar years. So, yeah, UCLA have thrown that name into the ring with Washington and Utah and Oregon. This is going to be one of the best Pac-12 championship seasons. This is going to be one of the best hot races, I think, for quite a long time.
Yeah, and like you say, this matchup that's coming this weekend, we're going to talk about, that's firmly on my to-watch list because I think it's going to be an absolute barnstormer because their opponents are just coming into form as well. But kind of says something for Michigan, doesn't it, that they can let this guy go and he just goes and ruins the Pac-12 and they don't even miss him. You know, it's like Michigan's a powerhouse at developing running backs at the moment, but fair play to Chardonnay for going there and doing it. Charbonnet, I think he's going to do well in the draft upcoming there. But yeah, huge win for UCLA. Well done to them. Now, you know, you talk about quarterback who you not quite had the faith in DTR. There's another quarterback who I know you've not had faith in over the years, but he's continuing to defy all the odds this season, and we're talking about TCU and their quarterback, Max Duggan. What the hell happened with them this weekend? They absolutely blew the Oklahoma Sooners out the water, and I don't mean it was a narrow win. They won this one by over 30 points, and I don't remember seeing any bookmakers anywhere offering TCU minus 30 this weekend just gone. I'm just talking about TCU 55, Oklahoma 24, and boy, oh boy, what a day it was for Max Duggan. 23 of 33, 302 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air. He had 5 carries for 116 yards on the ground. That's about 24 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Kendre Miller, the lead back for them, 13 carries, 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was running at 10.5 yards per clip. The backup, Imari DeMarcado, 8 carries, 62 yards and a touchdown, running at 8 yards per clip. And they also had 4 other players who ran the ball as well. Tay Barber had 107 yards and a touchdown. He was the leading receiver off just 3 receptions. Gunnar Henderson got a touchdown, 1 reception for 62 yards. This Oklahoma defense is bad, and don't we know it. On Oklahoma's side, well, Dylan Gabriel got hurt, which was an absolute shame. He had to be taken out of the game. He was 7 and 16 and 126 yards at the time. His replacement, Davis Bavile, came in. I know that Det Fanman is gutted that General Booty did not make his debut, but after this one, you never know, he might be involved. He got exactly the same stats. He was 7 of 16, but he only threw for 50 yards instead of 126. Javonte Barnes, the running back, he got a couple of rushing touchdowns and 100 yards on the day, 5.6 yards a carry. Eric Gray, he got 60 yards and a touchdown as well. But the story, Ryan, is this Oklahoma defense. It was bad last year, and they seem to have done absolutely nothing to fix it. When TCU are dropping 55 points on you, you've got to start getting worried.
Oh yeah, Oklahoma are in worlds of trouble. Defense last year, trash. Defense this year, trash. Even if Dylan Gabriel had played all 4 quarters of his best football, they still would have lost. Because that offense at TCU, which, let me add, has lost its best recruit in history. If you'd have told me TCU would be unbeaten after losing Zach Evans, the best running back, the best player they've ever picked up, I would have slapped across the face and said, you're silly. Max Duggan has been a running quarterback his whole entire career. His passing has been okay. So for him to pull that out the bag was fantastic. Kendre Miller is their new star as well. The young man is having a great start to the season. DiMarcado is really good as well at getting those second and third down carries in relief. Quinton Johnson, one of those guys that's probably the periphery of the better quarterbacks in the draft. That offense right now is just chugging. And a defense that lost O'Shea Mathis to Nebraska, still doing well, and is still bending but not breaking. They're relying on a good offense, but they're doing just enough to win games. And the Big 12 as well is tons of fun. TCU, Oklahoma State, Kansas, they are leading the way right now. And fun fact, I didn't know this, TCU's offensive coordinator is the brother of Lincoln Riley. Interesting, though. He's got Oklahoma connections, yeah, and he's just helped take down his former team, so I didn't know that. But Brent Venables, I'd say Oklahoma are in a lot of trouble. This program is going nowhere quickly. Dylan Gabriel is about to leave because he's draft eligible. He will not stick around. Their backup isn't good enough. General Booty's come from JUCO, and I don't think will make a leap anytime soon. So this offense is in a lot of trouble. This team is in a lot of trouble. The next year or two, they could be devoid of talent, and I've not seen them picking up many big-name recruits. I have seen them raking in the 5 stars for the future. I don't know what their offense or defense is going to look like in the near future, but yeah, they're not making the Big 12 title game. And I think they're going to have a very mediocre year.
And what must hurt more is when they look across the boundary and see how State are doing, because State they look good at the moment, don't they? Even, like you say, there's all these teams at the top, and State have just completely surpassed them, which 2 years ago would have seemed unfathomable, but yeah, Oklahoma look awful. I mean, just to put this into some form of perspective, TCU went at just a shade under 9 yards per offensive play. They dropped 668 yards of offense on them. It's nearly 700 yards to TCU. That's ridiculous. Oklahoma, on the other side, they got 385, but I mean, it's still nowhere near good enough. It's awful. Rushing, TCU were rushing 9.2 yards a carry on average. Through the air, 8.7 yards average. It's just it's crazy. Absolutely.
And they did it all wearing one of the best uniforms in the entire nation. They wore their Black Panther outfits with the spiked collars, the chrome giant frog helmet as well. No one has ever made purple look so good. They are easily one of the best dressed football teams in football, every level.
You've just reminded me, I forgot. Right, we'll do the uniform watch at the end of the reviews as opposed to the pro. But yeah, absolutely. But I mean, saying that, did you see that Lions throwback that came out today? Good God, that looked tasty. That black. Oh, I wanted to buy it until I saw the price. I'm like, yee, that's a lot of money, but I still would want it. My God, it's lovely. Right, so yeah, well done to TCU, and yeah, Oklahoma. Things are about to get a lot worse before they get any better. A few of the other pick watch results to go through this week. A lot of very, very close ones here. So I mentioned them earlier. We've mentioned them a lot on this pod this year. They've looked good so far, but they struggled this week. But they managed to pull out one of the ugliest victories you'll ever see, and unsurprising that an Iowa team's involved in this one. But the Kansas Jayhawks, they were playing the Iowa State Cyclones. Me, Ryan, both backed Kansas in this one. Kansas won 14 points to 11 in what was a very scrappy game. There were no points scored in the first or fourth quarters. There were 3 points scored in the third quarter. So 3 quarters of this game, there was a field goal scored. Everything happened in the second, and my God, it was ugly to say the least. Jalen Daniels, 7 of 14 for 93 yards, and that's about all there is to say about that. Devin Neal, the lead rusher for Kansas, 12 carries, 75 yards, 6 yards a carry. Jalen Daniels did get a rushing touchdown to his name there. On Iowa State's side, Hunter Deckers, 30 of 48, 287 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Their running game was completely non-existent. It was averaging 2.5 yards per carry between Dion Silas and Eli Sanders. This very much was a defensive game. Don't know what it is, Ryan, but Iowa teams seem to stink joints up this year, whether it be State or just Iowa in case. But I suppose one positive aspect for Kansas is they've won good games this year, and now they've won ugly as well. So they're winning in a multitude of different ways, but it's probably about the nicest thing you can say about this one.
Yeah, it was bad. I've watched the extended highlights. I respect a team that can win ugly. Jalen Daniels will say that he didn't have a good game. The run game carried them. Defense is stellar. The state of Iowa, the football right now, is just bad. Hunter Decker's bad. Spencer Petras, bad. Brees, we've finally realised now that Brock Purdy and Brees Hall just carried this entire team on their back. They both left. They're both in the NFL, and now they stink. So yeah, there's not going to be a lot going on in Iowa for a couple of years now because it's just bad. But no, I respect Kansas. Like I say, big win. Like I say, when your offense gets shut down and you have to rely on your defense to do a job for you, which it did, that says a lot about a team. And I don't know. Do I think they can make the Big 12 title game? Is that too much of a push?
I think this weekend will say a lot.
Yeah, this will say a lot. I think they can win 9 or 10 games. As far as I'll go right now.
They could. Like I say, if you can win the ugly ones like that, and you can win flashy as well, it shows that you're a team that's high on confidence, and there's no reason why they can't. But I think this weekend's the big one because these are two informed teams who we were not expecting to be informed teams who are coming together, and it's going to be good, and it's going to be another one I intend to watch if we can. Right, let's talk about some teams who are struggling now. Teams in the Pick Watch, and we've got to go in state here. I've got to mention it, and I know Luke's listening, he's a State fan, but oh dear, Tuck Coming is Tuck going at this rate, the way his team are playing the Michigan State Spartans. I had them to win this game against Maryland, and I now know that I am an idiot, and I will never do this again. I will never do it because they are struggling big time. Maryland won 27-13. Michigan did not score a single point in the second half of this one. Maryland only got 2 field goals. Most of the scoring again happened in the first half. It is ugly. It is nasty. Maryland, fair play to them. I questioned whether they could win the big games because Michigan State still a big scalp at this moment in time. Maryland have not really taken them in the past. They did with this one. Taulia looked really good. He had 314 yards, a touchdown on the day, only threw 9 incompletions out of 41 attempts. Antwain Littleton the second, 120 yards and a touchdown on the ground. They just got the run game going, and Taulia took full advantage of that. Michigan State, Peyton Thorne, 27 of 44, 221 yards and a touchdown. Their running back room is shocking. Jalen Berger and Jarek Broussard have already been knocked down the pecking order behind Elijah Collins, who I believe is their sophomore, who's been sort of sat in purgatory behind Kenneth Walker last year. He came in, he got a touchdown on the ground, and he appears to have taken over the lead running back role for now. Jaden Reed is back though. He's picking things up where he left off. He had 61 yards and a touchdown on 7 receptions. But again, this is another storied case, Rye, of that secondary is just really bad. It has been for a long time. They've not fixed it. The run game's struggling. The quarterback is now struggling this year, and the run game, well, it was all Kenneth Walker last year. It wasn't just a case of they were playing well with him. He was that run game, and it's just non-existent now.
Kenneth Walker was the entire offense. I've said now for 2 years, Peyton Thorne is just not good enough, and he's just proven it. He cannot win games on his own. He requires a security blanket. And I liked when they brought Jalen Berger in, like say at the portal, like say former 3-4 star kid, but he's been asked to do so much, and he's so far underwhelmed. And the defense, it's just bad. Like I say the secondary, they just give up big explosive plays. They don't manage the clock. They miss tackles. There's no leadership. Like, there's a lot of things, like, say, the Detroit Lions secondary and the Michigan State secondary look very dissimilar because no one is out there stepping up and no one is taking accountability. And that is really sad to see. And I agree, Mel Tucker is in trouble because he is not going to be able to bring in enough players to fix this team quick enough before he gets fired. They just won't give him that. I know he's got that big deal, but a big deal don't mean out. There's always a buyout clause, isn't there? If they're not happy in a year, he's gone. Look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin just got rid of a very successful head coach. So if you're Mel Tucker, do not for 1 minute think that just because you had a good year last year, that your job will be safe for the next 24 months. So yeah, Michigan State on a very rapid decline.
I think the thing for him is if he starts losing his recruits going forward, because they've got some very good recruiting classes coming up. If they start flipping and switching now, that might be the point where he starts getting in a bit of bother. But yeah, you kind of wonder where it's going to pick up from here. The offense ain't scoring that many points. The defense is just giving up too many. It's completely rotten at the minute. Dan in the Twitch chat says, did Ryan just say General Booty? Yes, General Booty is the third string quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners. We are not joking. That is his actual name. He's Det Fan Man's favourite player ever. So, you know, you might see him in a few weeks. But yeah, we're not lying. That is his actual name. So we're talking bad teams. Oh God, let's get this out of the way. Texas A&M, they are a bad football team at the minute who seem to skim games here. Playing Miss State this weekend. I think you bet against Miss State this week, didn't you? You wondered whether Will Rogers and that air raid offense was going to struggle against an A&M defense that at least is stingy on this one. But no.
Will Rogers looked good again.
I think this is a case of whenever you bet on Miss State, I'm just not going to bet for them because the wind seems to fly with how you bet on these guys. But yeah, the Will Rogers we know and love was back, 31 of 45, 329 yards and 3 touchdowns as Mississippi dropped 42 on Texas, who only managed 24 in response. Texas A&M didn't put up a single point in the first half of this one, and they looked absolutely rotten. In terms of mistakes, so Rara Thomas, the wide receiver, he had 134 yards and a touchdown on the day. There were a lot of other receivers he went round. The defense got a lot of sacks on there. Emmanuel Forbes, the quarterback, I believe, had 2 picks on the day, both off Haynes King, who got a chance to try and work his way back into this team and failed miserably.
Why?
Yeah, so Max
Johnson literally played well for like a week or two back. Why go back to Haynes King? It's crap.
Yeah, Haynes King, 6 of 13, 49 yards, 2 interceptions. Max Johnson in this game, 19 of 26, 203 yards and a touchdown. But it's not even close at this point. It's really not even close.
A&M fans as well are going absolutely mental on social media, aren't they? It's bad.
Is Jimbo in trouble? He's got to be. Jimbo's got to be in real trouble now.
I don't mind, but Texas A&M literally has got some of the best 4- and 5-star recruits in the entire nation lined up. Do you know, like next year and the year or two?
Yeah.
Their recruiting classes are fantastic. They're going to leave. They're just going to flip. They're going to start losing players this year. Why would anyone want to go to Texas A&M and play football? They're terrible.
And Nick Saban and Alabama are on the horizon this weekend, so if that gets ugly... I mean, I know they beat them last year and shocked them, but that ain't happening again. No. You're saying that, we're going to say that, and then next week we're going to be like...
If Texas A&M beat Alabama next weekend, I will shave off my beard. I will clean shave.
There we go. Ryan is going to be clean. Oh dear, you're going to be getting nervous if this goes a bit funny now. You know that Alabama don't like playing the Texas teams. They struggle to put away the Longhorns, but I think, if I'm right, this one is at home for them. But we'll see. I think we'll talk about that one in a little bit. Yeah, there's not much more to say in this one. Devin A-Chain is getting wasted. I'm just going to say that in Texas. He had another 100-yard game. 7 yards per carry. I don't know why he's getting wasted there. I feel really sorry for him. Muhsin Muhammad III, he had 119 yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions for A&M. They say they've got some good players in there, but That defense didn't register a single sack on Will Rogers either, and he does take a lot of sacks in the air raid there. So bad week for Texas A&M. Let's move on to some good teams who we like. So talk about Oklahoma State. They are looking really, really good this year. Much better than their rivals in state, the Oklahoma Sooners. Obviously, we have a big affinity for Oklahoma State now that they've given us Malcolm Rodriguez. Played Baylor this weekend. We both went Oklahoma State for this one, although I was nervous about betting against the Bears, but I really shouldn't have been. Oklahoma State won this one 36-25, and they look pretty damn good, scoring points all game long. They didn't really stop. Spencer Sanders is Spencer Sanders. 181 yards, a touchdown and an interception in the air, rushed for 75 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Dominic Robinson got 73 yards and a touchdown on the ground as well. And yeah, the defense is looking strong. They had a couple of picks in this one, although they are up against Blake Shappen. They had a kick return touchdown, and this Jaden Nixon running a very long, I think about 60 yards, something like that, was really impressive. And overall, just all three aspects of this team look decent this year. The special teams, the offense it's decent. It'll put up points. The defense is really good. The special teams is really good. I mean, they're right in there for Big 12 contention this year, Oklahoma State.
I'd say right now I'd probably pencil them in as my favourites because Spencer Sanders is having the best year of his career. Last year and this year, he's putting together a fantastic stint. And yeah, like I said, the defence still really good. This game was weird. I watched it and Oklahoma State were totally in control, but then an interception. Baylor scored a fast touchdown before halftime. So at halftime, Baylor had a lot of confidence. Like I said, Dave Arias, I've got a lot of respect for him, what he's done with the Baylor Bears. The last few years, he has turned them into a proper contender. When for me, they were average. But yeah, in the end, they saw this one out. It was a tricky game. Like I say, it was one of those banana slip potentially, but they saw it out. And I'd say, yeah, they're probably, I think, the team that is best on all facets so far in the Big 12. So yeah, interesting how it's going to pan out. Like I said, at some point I expect them probably to screw up and mess up a game, but they're yet to do it so far. And Baylor, just weird. Blake Shappen, you don't know which one's going to turn up. You don't know which Baylor Bears you're going to get. Good one week, bad the next week.
Who did State screw up against last year? It was last year they were unbeaten as well, weren't they? And then they really messed it up one week. I can't remember for the life of me who it was now. But it was a game they should not have lost. I swear it was against one of the bottom feeders in the Big 12. I'll have to try and remember that. But yeah, I know what you mean. They've always got that in them there. Blake Shappen, yeah, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's kind of what you get with them at this point. He had to throw the ball a lot. He had 345 passing yards. Run game didn't really get going in this one at all. But Monterey Baldwin, the wide receiver for Baylor, he balled out. 7 receptions, 174 yards at 25 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. No other wide receivers got more than 40 yards, so he had a really big day there for them. Dan Pascoe's had thanks. I don't think he knew about General Booty. We will raise the legend of General Booty. Right, so who else have we got in here? Ole Miss Kentucky. I watched a little bit of this. This was a slogfest to say the least. I went Kentucky, you went Ole Miss. Ole Miss ground this one out very, very narrowly, and I feel like it's a game that Kentucky probably should have won, but they let it slide. And I mean, I don't think I like either of these teams that much this year. I mean, they're alright, but I'm not getting good vibes in terms of SEC things from either of them. But it was an okay game, but slogging parts.
See, I think Ole Miss are really good. Jackson Dart, I don't think is very good. But Judkins, the freshman running back, and Zach Evans are maybe the best pair in the nation right now. And they've got a stellar defense with, is it AJ Finley, the star safety, yeah, really well. I said I didn't trust Kentucky. I said I didn't trust Will Levis, and they proved me right. I grow more doubts with every week about Will Levis. Costly turnovers, like I say, should have won that game. Kentucky defense is good. It's been good all year. The offense, blows hot and cold. Chris Rodriguez came okay, but yeah, the costly turnovers in the end are going to blow any chance they've got at the SEC. But I think Ole Miss are still a sleeper team to make the game because the defense and the run game is yet to be stopped. The QB, I've still got huge reservations about it. But I also love Lane Kiffin. He's my favourite coach in football. People hate him. I love him. He's just honest and he just says what he's thinking. And he's just a smart ass. Thinks he's the smartest guy in the room all the time. But I think he's funny. But yeah, I think the Rebels, and also their tree ocean helmets looked one of the best helmets I've ever seen. Like I said, their uniforms this weekend were brilliant because that special helmet.
Must admit the helmet was really nice. But yeah, they did what they needed to do. Chris Rodriguez was averaging 3.8 yards a carry. He got a touchdown. He looked alright, but when you keep him down, it's pain. Obviously, Will Levis the fumble to lose the game. It was costly. And if you want to go high in a draft, you want to put yourself in contention. You've got to make plays like that. You've got to be able to lead game-winning drives like that. So yeah, Kentucky beaten out by Ole Miss. Ole Miss are 5-0 on the year, one of the last 16 unbeaten teams in the league. So we'll see how they go on. They've got another tough one coming up this weekend.
According to Mike Rimmer from PFF Draft, his first overall draft, his first mock, Will Levis goes 5 to the Washington Commanders. So he still believes in him.
Wow. I don't know. We're getting towards our half-season mocks here, so I'm going to be interested to see what we're thinking when it gets to the half-season. But yeah, I've just got a lot of reservations here. I mean, I think we'll talk about Tennessee next, or later on. But yeah, I think Hooker's quarterback 3 at the minute, the way he's going, but we'll talk about him in a minute. Speak the name Booty and Det Fan Man shall arrive. He goes, did I just hear that Booty name? Talk about walking in at the right time. Yes, you did. We mentioned him a little bit. Dylan Gabriel injured at Oklahoma, so General Booty probably up to second on the depth chart now? You might see him, Death Fan Man. It may happen if the backup doesn't do well or gets hurt himself, so we're a little closer to seeing Booty on a Saturday afternoon. Right, let's move on. We've got a few more from the Pick Watch to go through first. Clemson versus North Carolina State. Clemson's resurgence continues. I know I picked North Carolina State because I'm a believer in Devin Leary and co, and I still am, but you know what, I watched this one start to finish, and you know, Clemson just better. DJU, he is just getting so good this year. 21 of 30, 209 yards and a touchdown. He carried for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, running at 5 yards a clip. Will Shipley didn't really need to do much in this one, just 60 yards on 14 carries, 4.5 yards per go, but they moved the chains. They kept the ball rolling, and that's all they really needed to do in this one. I mean, Devin Leary looked good. He did throw a pick, but he had 245 yards and a touchdown as well. The run game just got nothing going. That Clemson front 7 looks absolutely ridiculous. They are really, really good this year. Taya Thomas continues to do really well at wide receiver. He had 9 catches for 84 yards, and he's a name that's fast rising up draft analysts' boards. Don't know if he's going to go this year, but he's a very tidy player indeed. But Ryan, the Clemson resurgence continues.
Clemson are back. They're coming for their crown. DJU, I think, in the last 2 weeks, has got about 600 yards, like 8 passing touchdowns and like 2 rushing touchdowns with no interceptions. This is like, apparently it's like this is his best 2-week spell since he was a freshman, and he's now a junior. So the last 2 weeks has been 2 of the best he's had for a long time. And the defense is stingy. That linebacker core is scary. Let's see, got Brian Brzee, top 10 lock in the draft. Best defensive tackle, I think, possibly in the draft this year. Everyone loves him. So yeah, if you're a Tigers fan, a lot of optimism. They're definitely the team to beat in the ACC, and I think they're probably going to go all the way this year. I think they could even make a playoff spot. How they're playing right now, they're healthy, and they're playing good football, and they're proving their doubters wrong from last year.
I see a lot of people mentioning Breezy, and the first thing I see is torn ACL, and I'm just like, not with the Lions. I just can't be doing with any more players who've torn some part of their knee here, there, and the other. And I think he's missed. They said he had a blood issue or something recently. He's missed time with it. Not said what it is, but the injury history is sketchy. But On his day, he's a great player. He's one of the best players in the draft, absolutely. But yeah, Clemson are back. DJU looks good, and fair play to them. This teams in that conference are really going to have to fight hard to beat them this year, and it seems difficult to see where their opposition's going to come from at this moment in time. We're going to finish off the pick watch stuff. Kansas State, we both successfully bet on them to beat Texas Tech, and I mean, in Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn, Ryan, they've got one of the best running back pairs in the nation, but one of them's a quarterback. Adrian Martinez, 12 carries, 171 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Deuce Vaughn, 23 carries, 170 yards, no touchdowns. Probably fed up that Adrian's getting all the touchdowns. In the air, Martinez was just 12 of 19, 116 yards and a touchdown. They went to town in the running game on Tech here, and you know what, Tech have looked good with all their injuries at quarterback. Donovan Smith, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw a few costly picks, had a touchdown on the ground as well. Xavier White, the receiver, 120 yards and a touchdown on the day. Trey Cleveland, 98 yards on the day as well. So good offense there. But you know, Kansas State, they're 4-1. Deuce Vaughn's one of the best running backs going. Martinez is running the ball very well there. They could be causing a lot of problems for teams this year. They could be in a championship shot as well, maybe, or maybe not. What do you think?
I'd say they're one of the biggest sleeper sides in the nation. I'd say people probably keep underestimating them. They're going to take some scalps, the Big 12. Like I say, I think this is going to be their best season for a long time. I didn't think they'd replace Skylar Thompson so quickly, but so far I've not missed a beat. And we're seeing why everyone thought Adrian Martinez was in Nebraska, had that like Heisman potential, could be this star dual threat. It just never worked out. He's just never shown it before until now. He's in an offense that fits him. It's a shame it's taken so long in his career because he's nearly done in college. But yeah, Deuce Vaughn, one of the smaller, better, shiftier dual threat backs. One of the names to watch in the draft next year. They're a really fun offense. Defense can play complementary football and had a stellar start to the season. So yeah, head coach, let's say, is doing really good stuff there last few years.
Yeah, I think they look a really good side. And I say, yeah, they could cause some shockwaves in the Big 12 if they carry on doing what they're doing. So fair play to Kansas State, big win for them. Texas Tech still having a decent year given their injury worries, so that's not too much of a setback for them as long as they're able to rebound. So that was everything in the Pickwatch games. Me and you both went 6-4. We led the way this week. We're on the top for once. For once the experts got it right. Could have done better if some of the favourites had won, but hey ho, you can't win them all. So great for us. Outside of that, quite a few other points of note this week. One I did want to mention, there was nearly the motherload of upsets this weekend. Georgia barely putting away Mizzou. This one finished 26-22, and I feel like this is just a day when Georgia, you know, every team has them. Every team has that off day when nothing goes right and they just look terrible. And this was their day. And, you know, fair play to Mizzou for making a game of it, but good God, that was nearly the shock of all shocks. Mizzou could easily have won this game.
Yeah, like their offense, I think, was it Connor Brady?
Yeah.
I think quarterback is, yeah. Missouri, they're bad. They're not a very good team, but they did somehow have, a 16-10 lead in the third, and then collapsed.
And then 16-6 up at the half.
Yeah, that's criminal. that could have been the win that saves the whole season. That would have probably been their biggest win for years on end. But Georgia, they let them back in it. Stetson Bennett, he didn't have a very good day, did he? I'd say nothing was going right for Georgia across the board. But when you play bad and you find a way to win and have that resilience, I think that shows a lot that they're still natty contenders. That is a hard mental thing to be like, say, you're getting upset half time, no one's taking the game by the scruff of the neck, so that'll be one of them ones where you just breathe a sigh of relief. You didn't get upset, you live to fight again another day, but it's a lesson they've got to learn to overcome because Mizzou are bad. And they'll probably be upset that they did not capitalise on a chance to get a historic upset.
Well, I think it was just last week they went to overtime against Auburn and they could have won that, couldn't? I know Auburn are not exactly a measuring stick at the minute, but that's twice now. Missouri, they might be bad, but they're fighting hard. It took overtime for Auburn to beat them. They barely, the national champions squeaked by them. It was, I thought we were on for a right shot, but you did kind of get that feeling of inevitability after a while that it wasn't going to work out there. A few other teams who I've noticed, and I mean, feel free to chime in if there's any other results that took your fancy in this one. But we have to give props to UNLV. I think at the start of the season we said they were a 1 or 2 win team and they looked absolutely damn awful. Well, they beat New Mexico 31-20 this week. They're 4-1 on the season, and Doug Blumfield, the quarterback who's there, he beat out the Tennessee guy. I can never remember his name, who went out there, who you thought was going to get the job. I mean, I've actually watched a bit of this kid, and he's a really good quarterback, and it's like, UNLV, that's not the place you should be, Lado, but, they're surprising a lot of people this year, 4-1. People didn't even expect them to get 2 wins.
No, they've started really well, and like I say, they've brought in guys, some cast-offs, done a bit of transfer work portal, and it's all clicking. Like I say, whatever happens from this point on, they can be happy that they've, after some rough and up and down years, they've put together a good side so far, and they're reaping the rewards. So that they've had a good turnaround there, and their coaching staff should be really happy. But the job's not done yet. They've not got the bowl game locked up yet. But if they carry on like they are, it should just be a formality. So yeah, good to see some of the small sides that probably would have never expected to be 4-1 after 5 games.
God no. I remember when we talked about, I think they were at the end of our Mountain West preview. We're just like, what's going on there, and they're doing really well.
Another Mountain West team, Boise State. Hank Bachmeier's left. He did, like I said, he has gone. He was not at the game, but George Halani, their running back, they finally found a run game, and with the backup, they managed to get a big win because they're really in trouble. The Broncos, like I say, have fallen from royalty in the Mountain West. They had their special throwback helmet on, so it felt like it was a very just win. But yeah, they're going to have to rely on their running game and George Halani and their defense to try get them to the end of the season, because I don't know much about the backup, but like I said, the head coach has got to make some drastic changes or do something at the end of the year, because they're on a slippery slope now where they're getting dragged in to all the others. That it's just a tussle now every week, and they don't have that leader. And I don't know where Hank's going to go. A really weird decision to bail on them in the middle of the year. I know things aren't going well, but I've lost a lot of respect for him. I didn't think he was that good to start with, and now he thinks he's too good for them or too good for that organisation. Like, you might learn a lesson very quickly if you struggle to get picked up.
See, I think that can galvanise a team. Like I say, he's a mid-quarterback. It's not like he's a superstar walking out on the team. The team are like, oh, screw it, you're going to walk out on us, right? We'll show you differently. So I think it could be a galvanising effect for them, actually. But, speaking about Mountain West royalty, we might potentially be crowning, we're definitely going to be crowning new royalty there this year, because Utah State aren't doing it. They lost to BYU this week. Although they were really impressive to start with, I'll give them that. But then they just tailed off and got blown out. The Air Force Falcons. We are big on them. It was the start of the Commander-in-Chief trophy this week. They were facing off against Navy. One for the purists, let's say. It finished 13-10 to Air Force. But they look good. I think the difference in this one was the running game. Both quarterbacks threw for over 100 yards. I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen often in a services game where both quarterbacks get into 3 figures for yards. None of them threw a pick either. A fairly good day by Hazeek Daniels and Ty Labatai. But Brad Roberts had over 100 yards on rushing for Air Force. Navy struggled a bit more. I think they got about 100 yards total in their rushing. I think that's where the difference was here. But Air Force look legit. These could be the new mountain. They missed out so narrowly last year. I think it was the tiebreaker against Utah State in conference. They'd lost 48-45 in season. They were so close. But this year, looks like they're going to do it, or at least get to the championship game.
Yeah, they've finally found a comfortable offense. Like I said, Brad Roberts, I think when he is going to be one of those guys that applies for a waiver to pass on service, because I feel like the guy could get drafted. I feel like he has done some serious work in the run game. And Zeke Daniels is a really good dual threat quarterback. He might be the best passing quarterback they've had for many years. That offense is starting to look a bit more balanced. Defense is stingy. And Navy struggling this year, but it's a good kind of stylistic matchup for them, and they'll be really frustrated. Like I say, now that's kind of the only thing they've got to rely on the season is this Commander-in-Chief games. But yeah, Army got away with one there. But yeah, 4-1 on the year, and firmly in the Mountain West title talk. So I'd love to see Air Force do it. I don't know if a service team has ever won a championship, or it must be at least a few decades.
I'll have to check that. We'll check that one for another time. But yeah, Air Force looking really good. So maybe future Mountain West royalty there with them. A couple more results that picked my eye. No quarterback has tanked his stock more this year than Brennan Armstrong. That Virginia team look awful. And I mean awful. And they got blown out the water by Duke this week, 38-17. I mean, what's gone wrong there? I know you mentioned the thing that, Virginia should just, blow it all up and start again across pretty much every one of their teams bar James Madison, but his fall from grace has been huge, because he was one of those periphery guys this year who you didn't know whether he was going to go really good and maybe push himself into first round talk, or he was going to fall off a cliff, and it's the latter, and it's really confusing.
I think he fooled us. I don't think he should even have been a draft talk guy last year. Now look at it. I think it was all total one season wonder. I'm pretty sure if at the end of last season, if he'd entered the draft, everyone had looked at it and thought, yeah, this guy's not for a real deal. I don't think anyone would have touched him. And now we're just seeing what he's really about. Like I say, the season's bad. The touchdowns just not there. Now, the offense is bad in general, but then the turnovers, the arm's not looking as strong as it was. He was taking deep shots last year, but he just don't have that time in the pocket now. He holds onto the ball really long as well, and that offensive line is just not built to give him that time. Yeah, so yeah, Virginia Tech, like I say, just scrap it all. 2 head coaches massively in trouble. 2 don't have a reliable quarterback. Don't have a direction going forward. I don't know where either program goes from here, because if I was a player coming out of high school, would I want to go there to one of those schools and play football? Probably not, no. If James Madison made me an offer, would I consider it? I'd probably at least go visit them over these 2. Yeah, so it's looking bad.
And it's like West Virginia ain't much, but I don't know how their head coach is still in a job. I think he saved himself because of the win over Virginia Tech, but he can't be long for his job either. JT Daniels is going to get himself hurt there, and I don't want to see that, because he's a really good guy. But there were 2 quarterbacks in this game, and one whose stock is going upwards. Riley Leonard continues to look good for the Duke Blue Devils. 129 yards, touchdown in the air. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He's running at 7 yards, and backed up by a good supporting cast there, Jalen Calhoun. I think you've mentioned him before. He had another touchdown this weekend. I mean, Duke 4-1, only the defeat to Kansas on the record there. That offense, and even the defense looks pretty good as well. This team in general looks like it's going to upset a lot of teams who you wouldn't expect them to this year, because just all round they look a good side.
Yeah, and they've gone from whipping boys, and I don't use that term lightly, actual whipping boys for years, scraping 3, 4, 5 wins, and getting battered in division and in conference. But that just seems different. I say Daniel Jones being and gone, Chase Bryce, they picked up the transfer from Clemson, is now App State. It didn't work. The experiment did not work. He was bad at Duke last year, and when he was there in the past. But right now, I think Duke are in a really good place, coaching wise and offensive wise. They've got some weapons, like I say, and I think I'm gonna really like what Ryan is gonna do. like I say, he's just a sophomore, so he's just coming in his prime. Next year, the junior year will be big. Let's see. I'm putting them all out there. I'd love them to win a bowl game. So when they get to 6 or 7 wins and they get a bowl eligibility, like I said, that'll be one of the bowl games I watch, because it's going to be huge for like just the program and the confidence to match the basketball team that are one of the best in the entire nation. Have been for decades. Just have a little bit of football success. It's just nice. So not everyone just thinks of them as a one sport school.
That's it. You know, you like to see the rise of the underdogs this year, don't you? Like I say, TCU performing really well, the Jayhawks performing really well, Duke performing really well. You know, it's good to see some of these teams finally come out of oblivion and into relevance. So, yeah, really good result there for Duke. But Virginia, yes, a lot of problems await for them. A few of the UConn put away Fresno State this week. Obviously, a Jake Hanel-less Fresno State, but I put Fresno State as winners of that conference there, and boy, my words on that. Fresno State look bad this year, and now there's no. I don't know how long Haner's out for, but Mims and Cropper don't look the same without him, and to lose to UConn, who have been putting up, been giving up sort of 50 points most weeks, even to the likes of Syracuse. Fresno State, another Mountain West team who just, that division is bad this year.
I hate to say it, but Jake Haner should have left. Should have taken his name out of the portal. I'm not saying he should have followed Kalen DeBoer to Washington, because Washington looked really good, but I think that was his time to leave. Because, like I said, this season, it's kind of just going wrong.
Yeah. And
his draft stock now is also really up in the air. It's going to be really affected by this.
Yeah.
He had a star receiver last year, but the connection's just not there this year. The team isn't. Maybe last year it surpassed expectation. It probably did. They probably played a lot better than the sum of their parts. And now we're seeing that they're hung over. The team is hung over from last year, and they're all going to suffer. Cropper, like say, probably not one of the best receivers in the nation now. Thinking about his draft stock. So yeah, Kalen DeBoer definitely got out at the right time, because he's doing good stuff in Washington, and this Fresno State team, he's probably just trying to get to the end of the season and reload. Especially if Haner's missing time, they're in a lot of trouble.
I think that's the modus operandi of most of the Mountain West at the minute. Just get to the end of the season and try and get another off-season of fixing. There are a lot of teams who are in a shed load of I don't know who the hell's going to face Air Force in the championship game at this rate. And anybody could at this moment in time. They were all struggling. Anything else that stood out to you from Week 5? You don't have to talk about the Sun Devils if you don't want to, but obviously struggling. Anyone else that you want to mention?
Yeah. Purdue and Minnesota. That was a weird one. Mohamed Ibrahim is injured again. He missed the game. And Tanner Morgan, like you say, goes from 1 week almost matching, setting a record for completions, to going 3 interceptions and no touchdowns, I think it was.
Yeah, who was that?
And O'Connell had a bad day as well. So yeah, that was not a very good game.
I want to find the guy who put up that screenshot of Tanner Morgan could be this year's Kenny Pickett. I'm just like, that was trash when he wrote it. I bet he's deleted it now, if anything's to go back. But yeah, I hope Mo Ibrahim's all right. He should be the top running back in this draft, really. But he's not going to be, because
he won't be now. Like I say,
no.
He's had that bad knee injury. He's now got, I think, an ankle injury.
Oh,
I think his draft stock, I think he is going to really slide down the draft.
Yeah.
I saw someone put up their 2023 rankings. He wasn't even in the top 10. They didn't even include him because they think he could be a liability.
That's such a shame. That is such a shame for them there.
And Minnesota just look bad every time he doesn't see the field. And Cameron Orton-Bell, their leading receiver, last week got a season-ending injury. Tanner Morgan's got no one to work with, so he kind of gets away with being a bad quarterback. But PJ Fleck, 2 years ago, signed a 6-7 year extension. He is a head coach. I will tell you now, he is in a lot of trouble.
You reckon?
He is on so much money, but I think he's in trouble.
Do you reckon?
I think that Minnesota program is going nowhere quickly, and they've got $110 million dollars invested in that guy, and he ain't going to deliver to the players for it, and they're not going to get big recruits because Minnesota don't get big recruits. So Golden Gophers are on a highway to nowhere right now.
The thing is, they're all taking wins off one another again. Do you want to know an amazing stat? All the teams in the Big Ten West have played 2 games against one another now. That's 7 teams. Not one of them is 2-0. Not one team is 2-0 in the Big West. They've
terrible.
Yeah.
How bad was it last year? It was dreadful.
Yeah. 6 teams are 1-1 in conference. Only Wisconsin, they're 0-2, but that's what that Big West does. Big Ten West does. It just takes games off one another. The East has got 3 unbeaten teams in there. It's got 3 5-0 teams in there at this moment in time. So, it's
think about when the East and West merge as well.
Yeah.
Wait till divisions are gone and it's a conference. That is going to be a shit show for some of them. Some of them are going to get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Like the likes of Purdue, Minnesota, Iowa, when they have to start playing the East. They're going to be in a rough ride.
Do you know who's top of the Big Ten West right now? Just have a guess. I don't know if you've looked at it, but just have a guess who's top of the Big Ten West.
I don't think, but I'll go a wild guess and say Syracuse. Rutgers?
No. Illinois.
Oh, I always forget about Illinois.
Yeah, Northwestern are second in conference. I just don't get it. Because of the conference record, they're 1-1. And oh, good God,
surpasses your overall record.
Yeah, right. Let's stop talking about the Big Ten West. It's depressing. Any other teams you want to mention before we start talking about Week 5?
We can talk about USC.
I'll go on then.
Caleb Williams looked fantastic. USC absolutely put us to the sword. What was it, 42-21?
25.
Offense. Oh yeah, offense. At one point, we were like 6 points behind, and we were in a tight game. And then a flurry of scores just annihilated us. So we were hanging in there for a period, but yeah, this is just a season that Arizona State, we just got to suck it up. Get to the end of the year and just see who's left and who enters the portal, because I've got a feeling we're going to have another big depart, and it don't get any easier because I'm pretty sure we're about to play Washington, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And then, I think then as well we have UCLA. These next 4 games before Colorado.
So you've got Stanford and Colorado after this one.
Yeah.
So there should be some wins in there somewhere. You can't lose to Tanner McKee or Colorado. So, maybe some wins on the horizon. Who knows? Washington might just fall apart now that their unbeaten record's gone. You never know. Penix is capable of it. He's capable of throwing any games away on his day. So, right. That's everything in terms of Week 5. We'll finish it off with the uniform watch. I know we normally start off with it, but I completely forgot about it. So, I know you mentioned a few as we've been going along, right? But maybe just recap it if you've already done them all. But who shone this week on the uniform scene?
Well, Air Force, they debuted that space. It was like it was chrome, blue, and black, and it had bolts on its helmet, and it was just fantastic. It was just so nice. Like I said, TCU, the Ole Miss helmet, but oh god, the Oregon uniform. It looked like when you go to PE. Do you know when you forget your uniform at PE and they make a little box?
Yeah.
They had yellow socks. They had yellow bottoms, but then they had green tops and green helmets. And it's one of the ugliest, worst combinations I've ever seen. And they played really well. Their offense was absolutely electric, but it just looked awful. Next week, they're bringing back the Oreo, which is good. It's about time. Like I said, it's the only one I can actually tolerate uniform-wise. But yeah, this was a blunder. It looks like they forgot or they lost half their kit.
You know what, I like the chrome greens. The chrome greens are nice, and I like the Oreo. But outside of that, yeah, they have some baffling ones. It was awful. Anyone else to mention?
Yeah. West Virginia, they wore those white, blue, and yellow ones again. Like I said, the Mountaineers one, like I said, they're kind of growing on me.
You know what? The Tulane helmets are growing on me as well. I just don't know why. The green wave looks so cheesy, but I like it. I don't know why, but the Tulane.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, they have those lovely pale blue, nice green. Like they got a nice colour scheme.
Yeah, they look absolutely beautiful. So I'll give Tulane.
We haven't mentioned Georgia Tech.
Oh no!
Huge upset of Pittsburgh, and they had those lovely white and gold uniforms again. And I did not expect Pittsburgh to lose Georgia Tech, one of the worst teams in Power 5.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't mention it, but like, it seemed like the second half of the rankings, like, all lost this week. What did they say? Was it like 15 to 23 lost this week? There were loads, obviously.
Between like 9 teams, like between like 13 and 24.
I mean, like, Arkansas went down to Bama. You had, although that was cool, them pulling the Pat McAfee on Nick Saban. Did you see how pissed he looked when they pulled the Pat McAfee on him, when they did the little kick down the middle and then went and recovered it? Nick Saban looked like he was going to kill someone at that point, because they'd scored like 21 unanswered points. I thought they were going to win that game at one point, especially when Bryce Young went out injured. But
yeah,
how's his injury?
I worry about him.
Have you seen the injury update on him? I've not seen an injury update on Bryce Young yet.
Yeah. I think it was his shoulder, wasn't it?
It's his throwing shoulder he's hurt. I don't know how bad.
He got dropped really hard on it. It looked like a shoulder kind of collarbone, but I ain't heard anything, so I don't know if he's going to play this week. And I've literally just bet my beard on Alabama. I don't even know who their backup is.
I tell you what, the backup looked decent, but in fact, I'll tell you who did look good before we do this. Jamila Gibbs looked fantastic. He pulled off 2 70-yard touchdown runs, and I know it's scheme and blocking and all, but once he's gone, he's gone. He had over 200 yards this week. I mean, I reckon he could make a late push at running back 1 if he carries on the way he is. He'll certainly not be far behind Bijan.
Alabama's just a system school, though. Look how many running backs they produce. It's not because they're all great running backs, it's because they coach and scheme and block better than anyone. I'd say it's some of the best running back schools of the last 10, 20 years.
But in fairness to Jameer, he did it at a lot lower level before them. He's had to do it the hard way, Jamila Gibbs has. So, yeah, I think he's going to be big going this. So, that is everything in regards to week 5. A lot of good goings on there. We're going to turn our attention to week 6 now. We're going to do the pick watch scores, and then if we can fit a few more games in at the end, we will do. So, Ryan, we're on the end of a really good week. We need to come back with a second week running here. So we've got our 10 fixtures for this week we want to talk about, and the first one is oh so tasty. We are talking Mountain West, and we are talking betrayal, we are talking anguish, we are talking all sorts of emotions here. The Colorado State Rams travelling to the Nevada Wolfpack, and obviously Mr. Norvell's defection in the off-season, taking all of Nevada's players with him, and he started off winless. And Nevada have 2 wins to their name, and they're laughing at him right now. I know Nevada have looked bad these last few weeks, but Colorado State have had a week off to try and lick their wounds, but they've got players transferring out, they've got injuries galore, the quarterback has been sacked more times than anybody in the nation, and he went out injured. I think the running back's injured as well. 3 of their offensive linemen are down injured. I don't know how many are back for this week, but Nevada fancied by 3 in this one. So the Rams, Colorado State, they've lost to Michigan, Middle Tennessee, Washington State, and that really damaging defeat to FCS side Sacramento State last time out. The Nevada Wolfpack sit 2-3 on the season. They've beaten New Mexico and Texas State to start the season, but the last 3 games they've been bad. They lost that high-scoring thriller to Incarnate Ward in overtime. Then they've been defeated very heavily by Iowa and Air Force. This is 2 very bad teams at this moment in time, but there's a lot riding on this. The head coach crossing lines, coming back. His job's probably already under threat the way they're playing. It's going to be a very intense game, this one is. It might not be the prettiest on the eye, but I think there's going to be a few hits getting laid down in this one. Maybe a few ejections, maybe a few targeting calls. Nevada favoured by 3 points. Where are you looking to this one, Ryan?
I can't believe Nevada are not favoured by more. I know they've not done well, but Colorado State, an absolute mess. Who is even going to suit up for that game? They've had, like I said, their offense is down to like bare bones. I think Nevada are going to blow them out, and they're going to embarrass Jay Norvell, and they're going to humiliate him. He's going back there, and I think he's about to have his ass kicked, despite him taking like 6 of their players that have made no difference whatsoever at CSU. So this game is going to be hilarious. I don't see any way Colorado State can win. Nevada are not very good, but you can't even put out a really full-strength side to even have a go at causing the upset. I don't trust Nevada at all, but This is the perfect game. If you were 2-3 and you saw you had Colorado State coming next, you'd be delighted. best chance of getting back to 500.
Yeah, I'm thinking along your lines. I have no trust in Nevada whatsoever, especially, when you get blown out by Incarnate Ward. It's not great at home as well, but this is going to be a lot of tension here. I don't like what Novell did, just taking all the players with him, leaving them at a moment's notice. And I'm still fond of Nevada because I was a big Carson Strong fan, so I'm going to take Nevada as well in this one. So that is by the by there. Next up, we have SEC action. Tennessee at LSU. So Tennessee, they stand as one of the last 16 undefeated teams. They've taken down Ball State, Pittsburgh, Akron, and Florida so far. LSU, well, who the hell knows what LSU are? They are 4-1 on the season, but they lost opening day to Florida State. They've beaten Southern U, Miss State, New Mexico. They beat Auburn, but they didn't really beat Auburn. Auburn were just worse than they were. It was a really, really bad game for both involved. But LSU were at home. Home difference can make here. What do you reckon about the All SEC affair with this one, Ryan?
See, this is a really difficult one because LSU's had some standouts. I can't remember the freshman name's quarterback. Harold something. LSU, that's been phenomenal, number 40. I
can't remember off the top of my head.
He's having a fantastic season, but I'm just going to give Tennessee the edge because of Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker's having one of those seasons where he's going to get huge draft stock, and Tennessee across the board look pretty good. But I think this one could be really close. I think this one could be a pretty high scoring game. Should be fun to watch. But yeah, LSU, no mugs. Like I say, they're scoring points. It's not the hardest schedule, to be fair to them. But no, they've won what they've had to win, and they've got here now. So yeah, but I think Tennessee will get the job done. Yeah,
Tennessee 3.5 point favourites for this. I'm going to go with you. I think Tennessee look really good. I mean, people say Hendon Hooker might actually be quarterback 3 in this draft now. Would you agree with that? I think he's playing better than a lot of these quarterbacks who are in that discussion. I think you take away the age, surely he is in that conversation now.
I trusted more than I trust Will Levis, so probably, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And Keishon Butte continues to struggle. He had 1 catch for 4 yards against Auburn, of all teams. I mean, I think, is the relationship just dead and buried there now? Is he just going through the motions, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think maybe he's got too much dignity to just enter the portal like some have done, but I think he's emotionally and mentally checked out of LSU. Don't want to be there because the quarterback situation ain't great. The team overall is not doing well. Despite being 4-1, he's been total non-factor. And before this season, everyone was like saying how he was going to be an absolute star and light the nation. But yeah, he's turned into a damp squib. And I think the relationship is all but gone. I can't see him salvaging it.
No.
Some relationships aren't salvageable. You can't just suddenly decide to start throwing him 10, 15 balls and expect him to be over the moon again.
No. He just looks mentally checked out at this point. And they say if he wanted to declare this year, his draft stock is going to do nothing. Because I don't even think he's got like 150 yards on the season. Probably less. In fact, he might not even have 100. I don't even know if he's got 100 on the year, and I'm pretty sure he ain't got a touchdown either. It's no good there for him. Right, let's move it on. So, ACC action next. Florida State at North Carolina State. Me v Ash, this one is Jordan Travis versus Devin Leary. I'm just going to come up and say it now. I'm just going to say it right away. North Carolina State are going to kick Florida State's ass. I'm there all the way. Devin Leary is going to make a fool of a lot of them. Ryan, what do you reckon with this one?
Oh, I don't know. I've been burned once picking Florida State. And NC State put up an admirable fight against Clemson.
And it's at North Carolina State. North Carolina State favoured by 3.5 for this one.
Right. If it's not in Tallahassee, I'll take NC State.
Yeah, they've won. They're both 4-1. Wolfpack beating East Carolina, Charleston South, Texas Tech and UConn. Seminoles beating Duquesne, Louisville, Boston College, and LSU. So you're going NC State as well.
Yeah.
Right, NC State, clean sweep there. Now, The one that we were very interested in, Pac-12, potential title ramifications here. Utah at UCLA. Utah had that opening day defeat to Florida, but they're bouncing back. They're looking better week on week. They've beaten Southern Utah, San Diego State, your own Sun Devils, and Oregon State, who are looking really good, and they trounced Oregon State this previous weekend. UCLA, they remain undefeated. They're 5-0. They've beaten Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama, Colorado, and Washington. Obviously not the greatest schedule in the world, but Washington was the big game this season. They came out and won it. It's at UCLA. This is a huge Pac-12 fixture here, Ryan. Obviously the defending champions going up against a potential contender here. What do you see happening in this one?
See, for me, they've both had really easy schedules. They both had really nice starts. So 4-1 is at least they should be. See, I've seen Cam Rising turn the ball over a few times this year. I've seen that interception. I've seen the run game with up and down in, like say, they've relied on their defense, Utah. They've got the best corner in the division, Clark Phillips. I'm saying it now is one of the best in the entire draft. So he is someone that is a game changer, but I'm going to take UCLA. I'm going to say they're going to ride the crest of the wave, and I think Zach Charbonnet can run through the middle of this Utah defense. Devin Lloyd is gone, so their spine has been affected. So they will win the game by running the ball. DTR won't have a massive passing game, but I think he can have another good running game as well.
See, I genuinely don't know with this one. I bet on UCLA last week, and I was successful because I thought they'd beat Washington, but I don't know. This is so tough. Like you say, Utah are looking better week on week. They had that shocking first week out and against Florida where they just looked terrible, and they look like they've got their confidence back. They look like they've got a bit of the swagger back. But UCLA, like you say, are riding the crest of a wave, but eventually they're going to let you down, and it's just when are they going to let you down? This is going to be our first split. I'm going to go Utah for this. I think Utah are getting hotter, but I would not be surprised if I'm wrong with this one. So Ryan's going UCLA, I'm going Utah. I think it's going to be a hell of a game, though, a fun one to watch. Right, Mac Attack. I think this is the first Mac Attack we've had this season in the Pick Watch, now that we're in conference, and we're in state as well, as far as the Detroit Lions go. Eastern Michigan against Western Michigan. Now, some might just listen to those two names and go, oh yeah, Western going to win this at a canter at home. And 12 months ago, you may have been correct, but this ain't the same Western team as last year. It does not look good. So the Eastern Michigan Eagles, they're 3-2 on the season, including, and I hate to say it, but I have to, right, for purposes, the famous win over Arizona State in Arizona. Big win for them. They've also beaten Eastern Kentucky and UMass. However, the two defeats have come against the Raging Cajuns, Louisiana and Buffalo, and they put up 49 and 50 points on them respectively, and that's two not so good teams this year. So when they lose big, but they're also capable of shocks as well. The Western Michigan Broncos, like I say, they look a pale shadow of what they were last year. They're 2-3. The defeats are to Michigan State, Pittsburgh, and San Jose State. But I mean, San Jose and Michigan don't look good this year. Neither do Pittsburgh, really, to a degree. The wins were over Ball State, but that was a struggle. That was like last play of the game. I think they put Ball State away, and Ball State again, meh, and they've beaten New Hampshire as well. So, eek. The MAC is a mess this year. The MAC is much worse than the Sun Belt this year. The MAC's probably worse than the CUSA this year. It's a horrible division. And Northern Illinois, who rode the crest last year, they got beaten again this week, I think in double overtime by Ball State. So the champions are down and out. This is a conference which is just no bearing. There's no north, no south. It's just in the Bermuda Triangle, all over the place. I mean, what do you reckon? Eagles, Broncos? Have a guess.
Eagles. I'll take Eastern Michigan because I've seen what they can do. And Western Michigan, I just don't rate them at all.
Oh, I'm going Eastern as well. I didn't know whether we'd split there, but yeah, I'm with the Eagles. I know everyone went and put Western in the pick watch, but it ain't an easy game. I think Eastern have got the steadier team. They had less losses this season. They look like they've got a bit more of a complete team, whereas Western have just lost so much talent. It's hard to replace it all in one off season. They look a bit funny there, so we'll see. Alright, back to the vaunted Big Ten. Purdue at Maryland. Purdue 3-2 on the season, beating Indiana State, Florida Atlantic, and Minnesota. The losses to Penn State and Syracuse, who absolutely whooped them. Maryland, I tell you what, I'll give them their dues. I know I've doubted their credentials as to whether they can win the big games or not, but they've started this year well. They're 4-1. The sole defeat came to the Wolverines, Michigan, and you can't blame them for that one. They've beaten Buffalo, Charlotte, SMU, and Michigan State so far. Thoughts on the Big Ten matchup, Purdue, Maryland?
Well, I'll take Maryland easily. Like I say, they're scoring points. Purdue defense looks really shaky. And Aidan O'Connell has had a jitter lately of turning the ball over. He's only got Charlie Jones. He's like his real only weapon. And he's playing really well. But them two, I can't win the game alone. I saw, like say, Syracuse annihilate the defense a few weeks ago to win the last play of the game. Like say, Minnesota weren't great, but Purdue still struggled to put them away. Whereas Maryland, their offense is firing on all cylinders, and they will put Purdue away, I think, quickly.
So yeah,
they'll run out to a lead, so I think they'll run out to a lead, but then it'll claw back. But yeah, Talia Tungavailoa and his receiver core, they're just firing right now.
But you know, Charlie Jones has replaced what's his face at Purdue. Charlie Jones, one of the leading receivers in the nation at the minute. He's replaced not Bell, the other one. Oh God,
David Bell, yeah.
Yeah, David Bell.
There's no run game, yeah. Purdue have got no run game.
Yeah, Maryland.
The defense as well. The defense is bad.
Yeah. Maryland favored by 4. I like Aidan O'Connell so much I want to bet for them. Screw it. I'm going to keep betting against Maryland until I win. You go Maryland, I'm going Purdue. I don't know why. I just think this Purdue offense can get it done. I liked what I saw against Minnesota, even though they didn't have Mo Ibrahim there. So we're going to split. You're going Maryland, I'm going Purdue. Right. The battle of the independent heavyweights. Notre Dame at BYU. Notre Dame favored by 3. Yeah, we've had a love-hate, well, mostly a hate-hate relationship with them this season. Obviously, lost to Ohio State, the shock defeat at home to Marshall, but since then they've kind of calmed it down a bit. They've beaten Cal and they beat UNC last week as well, starting to look a bit like themselves again, even though that defense still looks a bit porous. And then BYU hit and miss as well. They've beaten South Florida, they've beaten Baylor, they've beaten Wyoming, and they beat Utah State the other week. Struggled with them to start with, but obviously lost in the big one against Oregon. Had 40 points put down on them there. This is a tough one for me. I find this very tough. Notre Dame at BYU, who you got?
It's hard because, like I said, I don't trust Drew Pine at all. He just does not look good to me. But then, like I said, BYU, when the lights were on them, they shit the bed, and Bo Nix made them look stupid. I feel like they're going to do it again. On the biggest stage, when everyone's looking at them, I just feel like BYU just beat themselves, and that Jaron Hall can't rise to the actual thing. So I'm going to take Notre Dame in a really ugly game. I think it'll be really ugly. Teams will just not get offense generated.
Oh, you know what? I'm going BYU here. I watched the BYU Utah start at the end of the day. I think BYU just starting to get it together a little bit. I think they are. So, yeah, I'm taking BYU. I still don't believe in Notre Dame. They're probably going to let me down now. But hey ho, what can you do with this one? Right, we've got a few more just to get through. Arkansas at Miss State. He's back again, Ryan. Will Rogers, he's back. They're at home to Arkansas. Arkansas obviously coming off back-to-back defeats now to Texas A&M and Alabama. They looked alright in both of them, but still came up short in both. Should have won the Texas game. They didn't. Mississippi State, they did the goods last week. Obviously we had them in the pick watch once again. They came up, beat Texas A&M big on this. One team in flux, one team you don't know what you're going to get week to week. Arkansas, Miss State. What you got, Ryan?
See, I don't have much confidence in our side. Let's say, because Miss State is so hit and miss. But I feel like their heavy passing offense, when it clicks, could be too much. With a side that's missing Jalen Catalon, I don't trust much of the Arkansas secondary now he's left. So if Will Rogers decides he's going to rain down 40, 50 completions, I feel like they could score heavily. So I'm going to take Miss State because Arkansas right now are licking their wounds and they're probably struggling a little bit of confidence.
You know
I
what?
wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas shut them down completely.
You know what? I am the biggest KJ Jefferson stan in the world. Everybody knows that. But even I think there's a point now where they're looking vulnerable. And they're on the road. These big SEC contests, they've not proven they can get over the hill in them yet. I remember last year when they were unbeaten, they were looking good. Then they got shut out by Georgia. They did nothing there, even though it is Georgia. They've still struggled. Alabama, they had the chance. Bryce Young was out. They were coming back into this game. They were looking really good. Blew it. Just really gave it up in the run game. So I'm going to go Mississippi State too. I'm betting against KJ. I'm sorry. I reckon you'll have a good game still, but I'm betting against you there. The big undefeated one, Ryan. This is going to be on College Game Day. This is what we've all been waiting for. The Kansas Jayhawks getting their national acclaim for their unbeaten season. At home to TCU, the battle of two unbeaten behemoths. Who would have thunk it this time of year? TCU at Kansas. Let me just get the line for this. TCU are favoured. I know they are. So TCU favoured by 5.5. Which seems a little bit unfair to Kansas, but hey ho, that's the way it goes. Got a tough one, right? Kansas, TCU, both surprising this year. Neither have lost a game. They've won some very important games. You know, TCU have beaten SMU, Kansas beaten Iowa State, beaten West Virginia. They've looked good in conference. I think this is going to be a barnstormer of a game. I'm not 100% sure which way it's going to go.
See, I'm a lot more confident. TCU, I think, have got too many weapons. I genuinely don't think Kansas have got that many weapons. And we've just seen Iowa State shut them down. No one stopped TCU yet, really. Their offense has pretty much been on point every week, and this is not the week. I don't think Kansas can just stop that three-headed... It's a three-headed rushing monster in Duggan, DeMarcado and Miller, and it ain't slowing down for the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, you've had your moment in the spotlight. College Game Day is coming to you for the first time. I think it might be the last time it ever comes. So, yeah, I think TCU are going to be... they're moving on unbeaten.
See, it's hard to balance it. Kansas are the feel-good story, and you kind of want to back them. And I did this last week. I had doubts that they could beat Iowa State. It is.
Saying?
I know. I've got to stop following my heart. Oh, my head says TCU win this as well. But if Kansas win, I won't be upset. I don't care about the pick watch in that regard. But yeah, TCU sweep for this one, and we're finishing off with two teams we've been used to this year. The UNC at Miami, Florida. The Hurricanes, Miami favoured by 3. Think it's safe to say both these teams just up and down. Marcus May looks really good at UNC. He's had a great season so far. The Hurricanes defense has looked okay, but Tyler Van Dyke has looked terrible. I don't know. I did not really pay attention to them at the weekend. I don't know if he's been benched yet or not. I know they did bench him the week before they took him out because, for reasons and whatnot. What did they play? They played Southern Miss. No, they didn't. They played... Oh, they had a week off. They had a bye week, so they've not played. Okay. Finished last one. UNC, Miami Hurricanes. Who have you got?
UNC.
Yeah.
I just think they've got... The quarterback is in form. The freshman, like say, May has come in, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, I think. I think he's got some of the most passing yards.
Yeah.
Tyler Van Dyke is really in a rut, and no one else around is making plays. Miami team lacking confidence, lacking playmakers, and UNC, I say they lost to Notre Dame, but they still scored what? Like 36 points, was it?
Yeah.
Even in a losing effort. So yeah, their offense, there's no problems to it. It's just a UNC defense. Like, which UNC defense turns up? The one that wants to get shredded by Tyler Van Dyke, or the one that wants to actually sit him on his ass and bench him by the half. I think the latter will turn up.
Yeah, I agree. I just tend to have better vibes about UNC this year and Miami. I think they're in a hole again, and I think they're going to struggle. So yeah, we're going to sweep for that. So that is everything in terms of the pick watch. Are there any other games that have caught your eye for this week? I think, did I see somewhere that said the Red River? Is it the Red River rivalry this weekend?
I think
Oklahoma.
So. Yeah.
It's the only matchup in the Big 12 that doesn't feature a ranked team. How crazy is that?
I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard of all the rumours and TV deals, I think this might be the last one ever.
Yeah, I think it's done.
Once they leave, they won't play each other again. They pretty much said they're not going to be scheduled to play each other again. This could be the final Red River, and that is really sad.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State, if it's the last one ever, I want Oklahoma State to fucking kick their asses. I want them to drop a hammer on Oklahoma.
Yeah. I think, is it this week or is it next week? I'm not sure. It might be the bye. It might be the week after this one. But yeah, I'll see with that. So other games we've got this week. So A&M playing Alabama. Alabama going to win that one quite easy. Auburn at Georgia. Maybe a slaughter in there. Washington State playing USC. Can Washington State upset USC? Or just
no, I'm less confident now. Like I say, Cameron Ward in that last game where they won through a touchdown, 2 interceptions. I feel like that Caleb Williams left offense now is just painful cylinders. It just slapped us. Like say, you got Jordan Ellison is now finding his groove, and I reckon that USC just could get better towards the end of the season, and that worries me. I'm glad we've got them out of the way, because I think they're going to start handing out some beatings. But I still don't think that... I still wouldn't even put them anywhere near the top 6-7 sides in the nation.
Yeah.
Good so far, but still not great. They're still not destroying teams. They still let us score 25.
Yeah.
Which is bad.
Yeah, it is a struggle. Dr. Detroit's in the building. He's asked us a question. I'll get back to that in a minute, just after we finish talking about these. Interesting one I want to quickly get your opinion on. Oregon, Arizona. Oregon notoriously bad on the road. That's where that's where the worst defeats come in. You've been very complimentary about Arizona this year. Is there an upset alert there?
I don't think so, no. I feel like they're playing Oregon at a bad time. Their offense just blew Stanford away. Bo Nix rushing the ball looked fantastic. He's one of the fastest QBs I might have ever seen. I'd love to see his 40 time because he is lightning. But yeah, I think Jacob Cowling, like I said, the offense can give the defense problems. But can the defense stop the Oregon offense? I don't think so. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. I think Arizona right now are in the best place they've been in years.
Yeah.
That's it. They're under new management. They've finally found their quarterback. They've got weapons. So yeah, they're going to give Oregon everything they've got, but they might just fall short.
Yeah. I agree. I hope they put up a good show, though. That'd be great for them.
I'd love for them to win. I hate Oregon.
Yeah.
I don't trust them. I don't trust them in the slightest, Oregon. If they went out and got upset, I won't be surprised.
No.
Because that's just what they do.
I agree.
I don't think they coach that well either. Like I said, I don't trust the head coach.
I
feel like the moment things turn bad, the fans will turn on Dan. So I don't know how long he'll be there, but yeah.
Agreed.
We're building towards a massive ASU Arizona game at the end of the season. It's going to be the biggest. It's like 2,150 days unbeaten.
Yeah.
With every week that goes by, I feel like that is coming to an end because they're getting better and we're getting worse.
I know you'll not be looking forward to that one. You're not in New York when that episode's on, are you, perchance? Is it just going to happily coincide that you're not around for that episode, or...?
I don't know. I don't know what weekend. I could be. It's the last game of the season, Territorial Cup.
It might be then. So who knows with that one. One of the we got a rematch this year. One of the most fun games we saw last year. One of the highest scoring ever. Army and Wake Forest. Remember that one last year? Was that did Army drop about 58 on them? Was it 58? Yeah. It was 58 to 70, weren't it?
14 points. Yeah.
That is a
good. We'll see that this year.
That is a good chance for Wake Forest to put right the wrongs of last year, because they won it, but when a service team drops nearly 60 on you, there's a problem, because Army just ran the ball on them all day, didn't they? It could be interesting to see how Wake Forest look against them again this year.
Army don't look very good this year as well.
No. So if Army dropping 60 or nearly 60 on you this year, then issues. It is Oklahoma, Texas this week. Quick, who's going to win that quickly?
No, I don't know. I think Quinn Ewers might be back. Quinn Ewers might be back. I'm pretty sure he was trying to get back for this game. If he's back, I think Texas win.
I just imagine Bijan walking around campus all week still with the ball clutched in his hands, making sure no one can take it off him.
We'll see. Is Dylan Gabriel going to play? If Dylan Gabriel don't play, Oklahoma don't stand a chance.
No, absolutely not. A few others around. James Madison playing Arkansas State. You hope James Madison win that. That just feels like the kind of one where they could slip up, I guess. Anyone else you want to mention on this preview before we're done? Because we've gone through quite a few of the big games.
No. I think that covers it. It's going to be an interesting week. Like I say, a lot of ranked sides meeting, and a lot of undefeated teams meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Detroit was in the building not long ago. He asked us a question. He goes, "Who do you all want with?" He says the third overall pick this year. I don't know whether he'll be there, but he goes, "Will Anderson. Is there a chance you pick him there?" I'm just going to outright say that I prefer Will over a quarterback right now. I think we need a quarterback, but not next year. We need some defenders. Well, I don't know. What about you?
No,
would you be taking Will above everyone?
I think if I have to pick, this would be a great year to trade the pick away. If we're picking at 3, we'll definitely be able to move back. But if I have to, I'm taking a defender. I'd take a defensive tackle. I'd take a linebacker.
Oh, would you take Carter, the Georgia one who everyone's raving about?
Maybe Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. They're probably my two guys. I'm not interested in CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. If I had to pick, I'd take CJ Stroud out over Bryce Young, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't trust Young. He's flimsy and he's a liability when he rushes. He's going to get himself hurt more in the future.
Yeah. Grandizer says, "You've seen the players that Micro Mike picked in his 7-round mock draft." I've not yet. I'm gonna wait. So we'll check out Micro Mike's later. Right, I'm gonna draw this to a close because we're doing our Patriots preview next, and I don't want to keep Matt waiting. I said I'd be done near to 8 o'clock, and we've gone over a little bit. So thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the chatter about the FCS Week 5 and the preview of Week 6. Me and Ryan will be back next week, I think on the Wednesday again. I'm not sure when the halfway point is, but our half-season mock drafts will be coming out soon, so come join us for that. That is going to be a lot of fun, and we'll be able to go over a lot of big matchups in Week 6. In terms of next episodes, well, the Roar of the Lions, Detroit Lions podcast is coming up right after the show, probably in 5 or so minutes, so go away, get a brew, then come back and hear us talk about us and Patriots. And like I say, me and Ryan are back in about a week or so. So thank you to everyone who has joined. I'll not go through all the socials because we're about to come back online anyhow. You know where to find us, and if you don't, then hang around for the next show and we'll get back to you. So thank you very much to you, Ryan. Thank you to Hank as well when he joined us this evening, and you shall see some of us again in about 5 or 10 minutes time to talk Detroit Lions versus New England Patriots. So good evening to you all. We'll see you again soon, and until we see you